to sing. Here I am singing. I have been told not to tag Sharon in. Say ah, 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 ah. Let's stop that there then, yeah. Hello, Sharon Boyd. Finally in the studio again.
I know, it's really nice to be back in here.
Oh, the sound quality is just so much better when there's two of you in the actual studio. So we are on part 3
of the CX mini-series.
Of the CX mini-series, which is a 10-parter. So we've done 3 and we're going to do 4, and then maths would deduce that we've got
6 left.
Well done.
Oi.
Well done. I wish I had a thing there to press to say well done, but
applause.
Yeah, I mean, I'll spare the listeners what I've got now on these buttons.
Yeah, please don't. There's all sorts of listeners you do not want to hear it.
Maybe at the end, depending on how far. No. We'll see what people get used to. So, as we said before, this is the mini-series. Sharon is going to read as she's sat here, for those of you who can't see, like a schoolgirl with her book on her lap, waiting to read her dissertation out to the class. What normally happens, as we've been doing before, is we'll read the chapter as it is wrote in the book. I believe, again, Sharon, let me just look over your shoulder. Yeah, there is the key takeaway, the MKLism, and then the main body, and then the call to action. This one is called
Say R.
And that's not R as in like a pirate.
Could be.
That's R as if you're going to a dentist and they say R. So we're not going to be swashbuckling. We're not plundering anything here. And Captain Jack Sparrow ain't going to come over the horizon somewhere and rescue us from an octopus?
An octopus? Where's that come from?
I don't know. That's all I could think of. So, Sharon, now for me, this is going to be quite an interesting one because there are 80 chapters in this book, and being honest, I can't really remember them all. We wrote this quite a while ago, and it's not as if I do what Sharon does and have it on her nightstand and read it every night as a Bible. So this one is a new one for me, so I'm going to be hearing this at the same time. Those of you who have never read the book before are going to be hearing it as well, because I can't really remember what this one was, although I do believe it's about patient experience.
That's right, yeah.
And again, that isn't patient as in you have to be patient with your partner. That's patient as in, oh, I'm sick, I'm not well. All right?
Yeah.
Okay, Sharon, I will be quiet. Over to you.
Thank you. This is from the book CX'y. You're CX'y and you know it.
Good, yeah. Plug. I forgot that.
Yes.
Yeah. I forgot that.
Which we wrote as a team. So we thought we'd share 10 of the 80 chapters.
But as a team, but only one of us has got a plaque on their wall at home.
And it's not the one that wrote the most.
Yeah, and it's not myself and Sharon.
That gives you a bit of a clue.
Yeah. God damn him.
Right, so this is page 112 if you want to follow along at home. If you haven't got the book, it's available from Amazon. Globally, actually. So, yeah. All right, so let's start with the key takeaway. Patient experience, the ultimate customer experience? Question mark, because that is a question that I'm kind of still playing with. Just going to move my mic a bit. Right, so MKOism. This is me talking now. I wrote this chapter. So last year, I needed to go for a minor procedure at the local hospital. I'm a pretty healthy person, and it hit home how many people had a whole different dimension in their lives, one where they spend hours, weeks or months in a hospital for one reason or another. The key elements that set this experience apart from standard CX for me are just fear and pain, which are pretty significant differences. I felt like I was giving up control when I walked through the door. With little to do but sit and wait for my name to be called, and to try and quell the dread, I reflected on the emotions of each of the other fellow patients around me. I don't know if other people do that, but when it was my turn, a lovely nurse met me. The first thing she did was introduce herself. I'm Wendy. When we go through this door, behind me into the treatment room, you'll find 2 other ladies and 1 man. We'll all introduce ourselves, but just so you know, all 3 of us ladies are called Wendy. She smiled at me then, and she smiled properly with her eyes. As she said 2 sentences, and already I felt at ease. She must have said that same speech. I don't know how many times a day, all day long. Yet for me, the first time of hearing it and her smile and humour had already brought me some comfort. She then took me through for the procedure, and she took me through the prep, left me to prepare with dignity of a second room. Once in the treatment room, one of the Wendy's held my hand throughout. She made jokes, mainly at her own expense. She distracted me in a very natural way while the others worked. I can't tell you how much I appreciated it. Afterwards, she debriefed me in a one-on-one way, talking me through all the next steps and reminded me that if I had any problems or questions, I could just ring the hospital and ask for a Wendy. At least 3 of them would come running. I walked out of the room feeling grateful. This lady had shown me something amazing, pure humanity. Onto the main body. I've thought about that experience a lot since then. It was nothing life-changing or dramatic, but it stuck with me. It pushed me to enrol on a fantastic patient experience course. I wanted to explore further into this deep world of raw human experiences. This book is all about CX in tech. There's an awful lot of tech in hospitals. But patient experience, that for me is CX on steroids. With patient experience, there's nowhere to hide. There's no gimmicks. At the core is people's lives and loved ones. Every emotion is already heightened. There's a lot to learn for me as a CX practitioner from observing patient experience. My own key takeaway from COVID has been the power of a human connection, both physically and mentally. And in those hardest moments of our lives, that is often what sees us through. Another human holding our hand, or gently explaining the results, or smiling as they tell a patient for the 100th time that week that they're called Wendy. It encourages me to elevate CX to stay real, to keep the human at the core of everything. It's one of the reasons I wanted to write this book. Tech can easily be a sector where the human gets forgotten as we build bigger and better systems, needing less and less human connections. I don't want that. Hence, this is my mission: strip everything back, build amazing human experiences, keep it simple, consistent, and then add the delight. Nothing too fancy, nothing false, just pure human to human connection. So thank you, Wendy, and Wendy, and Wendy. And the call to action: next time you're designing a customer proposition, a service, or a product, take a second to pause and observe just the pure human parts of it. You'll know you've got it right if it feels right when you live it out.
That's quite a difficult sector, isn't it, in terms of patient care, because it's very subjective. I mean, and you know, I don't mean like you've chopped your hand off and you're coming in and you're screaming in agony because you don't really care what's going on there. I wouldn't care if it was Wendy or Paul or Uggy Bear. I don't know. I won't care who it was in terms of that. But I don't like hospitals in general. I don't.
No,
I've never liked hospitals. I don't like the smells. I just don't like I won't even say it's so much the experience. I don't like going to A&E, and I would only go to A&E if my leg was falling off, like something really bad. But I've had to go to A&E with other people, whereas in my opinion, I don't think we should be sat there. But you don't say that to someone who's in A&E. Now, if there's blood gushing everywhere, then yeah, get to A&E. But if we sat there and you're going, I've put a nail between where your finger and your thumb join, that little bit of skin there, I won't go to A&E for that. I'd just pull it out and maybe I don't even think I'd go to see the doctor. I'd just wait to see if it got infected and then I'd deal with it. But where I get frustrated is if you do have to go to the hospital, and we need to be careful we don't get too political here, because the NHS is obviously under significant pressure. When we wrote that chapter, it was at the height of COVID as well. COVID hasn't gone anywhere, and you see the backlog of patients as in regards to that haven't been seen because of COVID. So hip replacements, things like that. What's their experience like?
It's Yeah, that's really stood out for me. Like you think about all the pregnant ladies who've had to go and have scans and found that there's been an issue, and their partners have had to wait in the car or be at home and not be able to be part of that, not be able to comfort their wife or whatever, and not feel part of that, and the woman being at home. And the same as if you just get told you've got cancer or something like that.
Well, isn't that what happened to Sarah Harding from Girls Aloud? Didn't she not go to a scan or miss a scan or something, and then
Because of COVID.
Yeah, they didn't get the opportunity to go and do it because it was at the height of COVID. Now, I'm not saying that is definitely the case, but that's what I read at the time. I believe that it was a combination of factors that meant that it wasn't picked up. But how is that solved through? Because it's a difficult one, isn't it? How is that solved through patient experience if the mechanisms it place to allow hospital staff to do what they need to do are already up against them? Because one, there isn't enough nurses, two, there's too many patients for the beds, and three, the infrastructure's creaking at the seams all the time. So what does that look like?
Yeah, and I think that comes back to that, before we were talking about end-to-end ownership. And you've got to do, whether or not it's putting in a new tech system or, opening a shop, or whether it's owning a certain department in a hospital. If you, exactly as you say, we're really stretched, but wherever possible, you've got to make sure that patients don't fall through the gaps. And if they've rung back and left a message on a consultant's answer machine or something saying, I need to change my appointment or whatever, and that gets missed, quite often you then get these situations where a patient is then missed, or something happens and they don't want to ring back, or they feel like they're going to be a nuisance. But there's lots of people, like you said, who don't want to go to hospital in the first place. They find that they have no control and they have to go. There's something too badly wrong with them that means they have to go. They've put it off for ages. They've built up the dread. There's long waiting lists. Even just driving to the hospital, trying to find somewhere to park and
getting
lost.
charged an absolute fortune to park as well.
Always, it's a nightmare, isn't it? And then you've got to walk all the way to the hospital, try and work out in the maze where to go. You've got the smells, you've got the sounds, you've got the screams.
And you just walk. I always used to find it fascinating how you can just walk. I mean, I don't know how it is now with COVID, but before COVID, you could just walk into a hospital. You're not really checked. You can just wander about.